Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. It's another all new news roundup that we've got in store for you today. We have got a lot to get into. We've got to talk about Saul Niguez's future. We've got to talk about what happened last night to Tottenham. We've got to talk some other contract renewals, possible contract renewals, and other stuff as well. There's a lot to get into today. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated. But for now, let's get back to talking about some of the biggest news headlines from the world of football within the past 24 hours or so, beginning with Saul Niguez and this whole story that's been brewing all over the summer. Yeah, we're diving headfirst into this in the latest developments to this Saul Niguez saga that we've known about all summer. Could he be on his way to Chelsea? We've heard about this Saul saga all summer, like I say. He's been heavily linked with a move away from Atletico Madrid or transfer window. Liverpool was said to be heavily interested, so were Manchester United, and so were Spanish rivals Barcelona. It did look like at one point that his likely next destination would be Barcelona, but of course with their major financial issues that they need to be worrying about, the last thing on their mind was probably bringing in another player such as Saul Niguez or anything like that, and obviously that didn't materialise. Liverpool seemed to have everything in line for this deal to take place, but they couldn't agree on personal terms, it seems. Whilst for United, they are possibly still in the mix for Niguez, but it may depend on whether United can move on a few players before they start to look to bring anyone else in at this window. But today, Fabrizio Romano tweeted regarding the 26-year-old Spanish midfielder, saying Chelsea will decide in the next few days whether to buy a new midfielder or not, keeping an eye on Saul Niguez. He's considered a possibility, not advanced yet. Atletico will decide soon about Saul's future. Chelsea are working on Koundé deal too. Now, of course, the Chelsea rumours, there have been minor Chelsea rumours regarding Saul Niguez for a while. But I mean, if this does turn out to be true, and of course they get the Koundé deal over the line as well, this is turning out to be an amazing transfer window if you're a Chelsea supporter, obviously. The return of Romelu Lukaku, and then, like I say, if they can get the Koundé deal over the line, that will be seen as great business. But if he can get Saul Niguez too, purchasing a sort of spine of a team within this transfer window, they are genuinely serious this year for the title and possibly for everything else. I honestly do believe that they are serious title contenders anyway this season. But by adding Lukaku, by adding Koundé, if they can get that deal over the line, and by adding Niguez, if this deal is to go on to materialise into something serious, then that will obviously certainly boost and improve their chances of doing exactly that and being the kings of England once again. But like I say, like we've had to wait throughout most of this summer, we wait and see upon the future of Saul Niguez. We wait and see in regards to his future where it lies. Next, you knew this was coming, Spurs fans. You knew we'd have to talk about this. Tottenham losing their first leg of the Europa Conference League Qualifier last night. It was a much changed and much younger Spurs squad, to be fair, but they still lost 1-0 in the first leg to Portuguese side Pacos de Ferreira. Now, look, I get it. It was a much changed lineup to the one that we saw on Sunday that beat Manchester City. I get that. But there was still some experience within that squad. There was still some quality within that squad and some debutants too to boot, in the form of their new summer signing, big money signing, Christian Romero, and of course, Bryan Gil as well. And I know that for the second leg, Spurs will just throw out a much stronger lineup, and that should hopefully see them overturn that deficit and go on to qualify from there. But for right now, this is embarrassing. And whether you're a rival fan or a neutral fan, this is pretty damn funny. And before you throw out your excuses, Spurs fan, before you throw out your excuses, it was an inexperienced lineup, a younger lineup, whatever you want to call it. Let me ask you this. If Arsenal were in the same position as you last night and they just lost the game to a team that no one had really ever heard of before last night, would you be willing to hear their excuses? Would you be willing to hear the excuses of the Arsenal supporters. I didn't think so. You'd be the first to go onto Twitter or any social media and absolutely banter them. So for now, I say you take the L and you move on. Also last night, Europa League qualifiers were going on as well, and the only one notable for me at least for right now was Rangers, who overcame being down to 10 men to win their first leg Europa League tie 1-0 over a team called Alishkert. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. Alishkert FC, with Alfredo Morales getting on the score sheet, and of course they will take that 1-0 victory with them into the second leg and hopefully from there qualify into the Europa League group stages. For our next story, we come to Liverpool. They are seemingly going to continue to tie players down to long-term contracts in the very near future. What the Reds may have lacked in transfers this summer, they've certainly made up for in new deals for key players. And given how the rest of Europe is being extremely cautious right now in terms of their spending, or are attempting to make financial cutbacks wherever possible, with the exception of PSG, of course, it's a great time to do it. Tie down your worthy assets to long-term contracts and keep them for the long term, pricing clubs out of possibly buying them in the future when obviously the money gets injected into the game, into the rest of Europe. Liverpool have already signed Trent Alexander-Arnold, Fabinho, Alisson Becker and Virgil van Dijk all to new deals this summer, and now it looks like next in line is Sadio Mane, Andy Robertson and Mohamed Salah. Mane and Salah's contracts both run out in 2023, whilst Robertson's runs out in 2024. It's being said that the improved contracts for all three players are in the pipeline, and that talks are advancing positively with all three of them, or are set to begin at least. It's a great move by Liverpool, like I say, to keep all of their big and key players committing their long-term futures to the club. Great moves, and fingers crossed that they can obviously get the rest of these deals over the line, and that's Mane, Salah and Robertson will all commit their futures to Liverpool and stay at Anfield. Alright, it's time for some quick fire contract renewals, signings, dealings and rumours, and this kind of all big roundup. First up, speaking of contract renewals, we've got James Ward-Prowse as the subject for our next story. He has signed a new contract with his club Southampton. The England midfielder has been subject to a lot of transfer speculation this summer, linking him with moves away for the likes of Aston Villa and supposedly Tottenham. Villa even had a £25 million bid rejected by Southampton for the 26-year-old earlier this transfer window, but it now seems that he has put an end to those rumours, an end to that speculation, as he signed a new 5-year deal with the club. A club that of course he's been at since he was 8 years old. Next up, Teemo Bakayoko. Remember him? Well, he's looking set to leave Chelsea again this summer for another loan move to AC Milan. According to Fabrizio Romano, AC Milan are getting closer to Teemo Bakayoko. New meeting today to reach an agreement with Chelsea after contract extended until June 2023 in order to complete potential loan move. That was a tweet Romano put out yesterday. It simply hasn't worked out well for Bakayoko in England and with Chelsea, has it? Him being back in Serie A seems to be the right move for both Chelsea and AC Milan, and of course for Bakayoko himself. He went out on loan to Milan back in 2018-2019 season, and last season was on loan again in Serie A, but this time he was playing for Napoli, and now it appears that he's going back to Italy and back to being in an AC Milan shirt for the new season. Our next story centers around Manchester United winger and youngster Amad Diallo. He's reportedly been given the green light over a loan move to Championship side Sheffield United for this season. The Blades are said to be interested in the young United winger as they begin life back in the Championship again for this season. It's being said that United are open to letting the 19-year-old go out on loan and gain some experience this season, but it has to be the right move for United. Allegedly, talks have begun between United and Sheffield United for a deal to be struck, and I think that if this goes ahead, this will be good for everybody involved. We just wait and see whether a move actually does materialise for Diallo and whether it is going to be Sheffield United or possibly another club waiting in the wings to pounce on this potential deal. Next up, we're off to Madrid as Karim Benzema has signed a new contract extension with Real Madrid. It's something that we talked about before. We said that this was going to be happening days after Thibaut Courtois has committed his long-term future to the Spanish Giants, and Benzema, as predicted, has done the same. The French striker has signed a new deal, keeping him at the club until 2023. Next up, because of kind of a bit all over the place, we go to Gary Cahill. He has found himself a new club in the form of Championship side Bournemouth. He left Crystal Palace earlier this summer following 2 years with the club and has since been without a club. But pending a medical, Cahill should be announced as the Cherries player very soon, or maybe even announced as the Cherries player as soon as this video goes up, in the very not too distant future at the very least. Bournemouth are now under new manager Scott Parker, and have so far made an unbeaten start to their campaign this season, winning 2 games and drawing 1 of their opening 3 matches of the new season. And for our final story, see if you can spot the common thread here. Pedro has left Jose Mourinho's Roma to join Maurizio Sarri's Lazio on a free transfer. Yep, that's right. Pedro, Mourinho and Sarri are all tied together, having been at Chelsea for a time. The Spanish winger switches Italian clubs after Mourinho didn't see him as part of his future plans going forward at his new club, and he's ended up reuniting with Sarri, who of course was his manager during his time with the Blues a couple of years ago. But of course, as I always say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of any of the news stories that I've talked about in this video? I'm particularly interested to hear your thoughts and comments on the Saul Niguez situation. Could he be on his way to Chelsea? Tottenham's lost last night, and the Liverpool contract situation in regards to Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane and Andy Robertson. But of course, I'd love to know your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, whatever you want to call it, on any of the news stories. It's just those 3 in particular I'm interested in. But don't forget, leave a comment down below on any of these stories. I'm sure they would make for interesting reading. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way up if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I will see you and speak to you all again soon in another video.